You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, packerstotalaccess@gmail.com. You can text us, 865-658-5824. Joined alongside Emilio right on time. Look at Jacob.
Shoo.
The buzzer. How we doing, gents?
I made it just in time.
I'm talking about.
I can't believe Jacob was later than me. I thought I was late.
No. He said nah. All right, there you go. Getting this thing started off strong here this evening. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsors. They'll be proud of that segue, right? Gentlemen, it is 83 degrees in the studio. Woo, let me tell you, it's like a sauna in here. So I apologize in advance. You're going to see me angry from time to time during the show. We're going to try to get through it. Is it hot up your way, Jacob, or not?
Yeah, it's really humid. It's storming out right now. The reason I was a little bit behind, an old man backed into me today. And,
no.
in the Aldi's parking lot, and then created a big scene and insisted that I call the police and that we get the footage and blah, blah, blah. And then the cops came and determined that he completely was at fault and that the insurance is going to have to be covered on his end.
Oh, we're going to get
He was not happy.
He thought he had you, Jacob.
Oh, yeah. Dude, this guy, he backed into me, and then we're in the middle of the parking lot, and I was like, bro, I got to pull over because we're blocking everything. And this old man starts going, he's running away. Hit and run. And he literally started saying, get him. And I was like, dude, don't say get him nowadays. Like, I'm pulling right here. I'm like, my window's down. I'm talking to you. Chill out, old man.
Was it in the truck?
Yeah. His driver's side door got all dented in. My dad's truck doesn't have a dent on it, not even a scratch.
Nice.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. He said, get the hooligan with the neck tat. Get him.
Dude, and I'm just standing there like, I swear to God, I didn't do anything.
For the first time in my life, I didn't.
Could have been a Vikings fan.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Emilio?
I said he could have been a Vikings fan.
Could have been.
You never know. Over there in enemy territory.
They're not the most intelligent of folks, that's for sure. So, yeah, guy said, you better have your insurance card. And Jacob said,
how about these hands?
You didn't draw back on the old band, did you?
I was super cool. I was let's just say I was vibing. I was in good vibes at that point. But the best part, and we'll get back to football, he's like, give me your phone. I got to call the cops. I'm like, why don't you just use your phone? And he goes, I don't have one. And I was like, and I start laughing. And he goes, I know you got a phone, don't you? And I went, yeah, it's 2024, Pops. Everybody had a phone.
That was the best part of the story. Why did you wait so long for that? That was great.
He said, give me your phone.
I'm not going to, so quit asking.
Jacob. Hey, glad you're okay, man. Glad you're okay. For sure.
Thanks.
I thought for sure if you had told me that story beforehand, I'd think, all right, on 11 o'clock news, we're going to see Jacob getting pistol whipped by some old man at an intersection. So,
It was close.
All right. Speaking of pistol whip, let's give a shout out. I'm just joking. All right. So we got some news that dropped today. All right. Jacob Eason released. All right. So Packers released a quarterback drafted in 2020 whose name starts with J. It's Jacob Eason. All right. So Matt Schneidman hit the symbol there. Good job, Matt. Got a good ruse out of the crowd there. So obviously Jacob Eason was brought in when Jordan Love was doing the hold in, right? Kind of an extra camp arm. I think they seen Sean Mannion, the assistant quarterback coach, wing it around a little bit. And Matt LaFleur said, there's no way he's going to be able to bust a bunker with that arm. We got to get somebody else in here, right? So that's exactly what was happening with Jacob Eason. He's now been cut, freeing up a roster spot Paul Brettel tweeted this out, said Packers workout list. They have an open roster spot after waiving Eason. Kicker, Jonathan Garibay. Defensive end, Andre Carter. Cornerback, Don Gardner. Kicker, James McCourt. Defensive end, Zach Morton. Kicker, Andre Smith. Smite, I guess is how you would say that. Is the Z silent there, boys? How would you say that?
Smite.
Smite. No.
I don't know. That's tough.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Sizmite.
Sizmite. I don't think that's it, but we'll move along here. Cornerback Josh Valentine Turner. He quote tweeted Aaron Wilson, who said worked out Andre Carter, Don Gardner, the whole crew there. So the thing that pops to me here, you bring in 3 kickers, right? And you're in the second week of camp. Both the kickers you have, obviously you just cut the third kicker, and now you bring in 3 more for a workout. Or I was kind of feeling like, okay, I understand Greg Joseph might have the upper hand now. I'm still of the opinion that Anders gets the job if camp ended right now. But are you guys a little worried about that, man? You a little worried about the fact that they bring in 3 kickers?
I don't know if worried's the right way of describing it, but I think it's definitely interesting compared to last year. We just decided we're going to let the rookie get completely comfortable and not worry about anything. And now this year, even with the success of Greg Joseph, they, for some reason, want to bring in more quote-unquote talent or rotation. I think we got 2 great kickers right now. I don't really honestly see the need to bring in another one, but I feel like that they maybe learned their lesson last year and that they're really going to go above and beyond to make sure they got the right kicker going into this year. So I can't be mad at it, I guess. Due diligence.
Yeah, I think it could also be something like we know Goody wants to turn the bottom of the roster. It's not something Matt really has to deal with until they're, out on the field in front of him, in front of Rich. But we turn the bottom of the roster, then, okay, we take these notes. We like this guy moving forward for the next, 2 years or whatever. We like him for this year moving forward in a case of a backup plan, something like that. Just to have notes on them. I mean, I'm sure they've done their scouting on all these guys anyway. So sometimes if you have a chance to bring them in person to look at them, then a couple things for sure. You get to meet them character-wise and all that. So typical Packers stuff, but I don't think I'm too worried about another one coming in.
Got it. All right. Jarrell Lee in the chat earlier says Javon Bullard or Evan Williams. Huge Bull fan, but I got to say I wouldn't be mad if Evan started second coming of Micah Hyde. Well, that's high praise. Obviously, that's the one that got away for Green Bay, letting him go to Buffalo in his prime, and had a pretty darn good career in Buffalo. I think he's in Miami now. But, yeah, Evan Williams, it's just like the kicker position. Whoever's the better player, man. I'm not emotionally attached to a name, right? Chris Henn says if Williams gets safety, hopefully Bull gets slot both on the field. That would be awesome for sure. Keyshawn, I don't know, guys. I don't want to slander anyone here, but to me, it feels like Keyshawn's had a bad camp. Am I the only one that feels that way, or do you guys think I'm reading a little bit too much into that? It just seems like every day he's getting beat,
I feel like that Keyshawn has got not my favorite attitude. I feel like he has a lot of ego. He's a little older than I would want him to be. He makes more money for what he is producing on the field. And now, as much as I'm seeing as we thought it would be a benefit having him in the kick return game, now I'm starting to think that his skill set might be possibly a little different. I still think there's a chance that he could absolutely kill it and crush it. But I really think that if that's the case, his best asset to the team is as a returner, and it's not in the nickelback position. That's just me personally, or the slot position, whatever you want to call it, because I just think there's too much other talent. I would love, like Chris is talking about here, I would love it if Bull took over that slot position and then we had Evan Williams and X out there at the same time. I mean, I think that would be amazing. And we've seen that there's been glimpses of guys like Kalen King, Valentine, all of them have shown up and shown that they can produce. I would argue I would take all 3 of those guys over Nixon if I had to.
Yeah, those great points, Jacob. The only thing I would say in rebuttal would just kind of be, did you listen to his interview he had? He said he'd never been on a practice squad, so I think that takes a lot of effort and courage. He's kind of coaching up Kalen King, and I think even having him in there, even if he is gonna he could be the transfer man to bringing in the young guys to that slot. So I'm kind of cool with him being here this year. I kind of accepted it. He's going to be here, going to roll. Let him do as much as he can on kickoff. But I think he's kind of got to be a teacher this year, big time, and hopefully help out KK and all of the rest of them to try to get better and ready for that next step. And I think he is excited about the new defense, so we'll see. But he did like to hit, so maybe playing a little slotty, he comes up and throws the shoulder once or twice more. Just got to wrap up.
Got it. All right, Omer in the chat earlier says Goot needs to use some of the cap space and get us linemen, even low profile, anything got to be better than Royce Newman and Andre Dillard. He has been on Royce Newman's case for a year and a half now, man.
Yeah,
Jake, you agree, don't you?
I kind of agree with that, to be honest. And it's not because it's not like a personal vendetta against Royce or necessarily Mr. Dillard. It's just if I'm looking at things rationally, taking emotion out of it, take a step back, the weakest point by far is our interior offensive line, and I would say our rotation at interior offensive line. And those two guys right there, I think would be just absolutely robbing. If we're going to carry, I think maybe we'll get into it later if I'm not mistaken, look at what the progressed 53-man roster would look like at this point, depending on what the camp battles and all that kind of stuff. Yep. You can't tell me that we can't find somebody out there that's performing better than Andre Dillard and Royce Newman. And like you talked about, it doesn't need to be big. There's really not, there's not a lot of quote unquote big free agents left out there, but I bet you there's a bunch of lunch pail guys, steady Eddies. And I would hope that Goody has his ear to the, the ground and is at least got some of these guys on their radars. Once they start doing initial camp cuts, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some more talent swinging in here. But at this point, I would like it to happen sooner than later, just so we could try to get that unit working together for as long as possible, get some continuity into some of these preseason games. But yeah.
For me, the big, I wouldn't say issue, the worry for me though, is swing tackle, because it was Andre Dillard. They gave him a shot. Then it was Kadeem Telford getting all these reps. And now they're trying to, if I understood correctly, they're trying to work Caleb Jones down. It's like, I don't know. I'm starting to get a little, all right, what are we going to do with swing tackle here, right? Yeah. Because if the answer is Jordan Morgan, then guess what? You're moving two positions around with one injury, right? And that's where you're really going to do a lot of trouble.
Travis Glover.
It's all about it. Coach Lynn says, I'll be good with Williams and Bull can play post safety and let X play slot. Woo, look at that. I wonder if that's possible. From time to time, especially seeing that the cat's out of the bag, and Evan Williams mentioned that they're going to be playing a style of defense from time to time where X is going to make the final call on who's playing spur and who isn't, who's going to slide up in the box and who isn't, right? I know Matt LaFleur is a little bit aggravated with Evan Williams and the fact that he leaked that information out. I think he said something to the effect of, I'm glad Evan's giving out all our secrets, right? But it goes back to the old way, and Coach Lynn knows this. You want to make the quarterback have to read the defense post-snap. That's the goal, right? That's the whole reason of disguising pre-snap. And sometimes you overdo it and you put yourself in a very vulnerable situation. But I think with what they're doing there with the safeties, wait until the last second to decide who's going down, who's staying up. I think that's something that could be a huge factor there. Now, when you talk about where X played with the Giants, he played all over the place. We showed clips where he did play slot from time to time. They'd kick a tight end out there and he'd just come down, play man. And it was essentially a receiving tight end that he was playing man-to-man on, right? So he does have a little bit of experience there. I just like his frame, he being X at the post-safety position personally. So let's see what else we got here. Skion in the chat said, I just hope one or two of these safeties are great. Amen to that. Coach Lynn went on to say, I don't think our O-line is that bad. I just think our D-line is exceptional. That seems to be what Matt LaFleur is insinuating as well. Prince in the chat said, Newman will make the 53, leave in free agency, and we'll get a 7th-round comp pick. Paxstradamus is what he said there. So good stuff, Prince. All right. Some other news that broke. This is great news. We kind of already talked about it yesterday and the day before. We could see it coming down the pike before we get into it. If you guys and gals would, hit that like button for us real quick. Feel free to sub to the channel, share, all that good stuff. Let's boost that algorithm, get other Packer fans to find this channel, find this content. We really appreciate y'all hanging out with us. So the big news for me of the day, as our boy Rob Westerman over at GBP Daily tweeted out, Tucker Kraft has been activated off the PUP list. No surprise here, right, guys? But it sounds like it's right on track. A couple weeks after Zach Tom got activated, now Zach Tom's going to be participating in 11-on-11s. I think within a week or two, you'll probably see Tucker Kraft start to participate in 11-on-11s too. I think what you're going to see is the walkthrough stuff. He'll be out there, and some of the one-on-one drills that aren't as physical, he may be a little bit more involved in. What do you guys think about Tucker Kraft there? And I'll put this picture up for motivation.
Man, I'm super excited to get him back, and I'll go so far as to say that when we first drafted both tight ends, I know for sure I was a bigger Tucker Kraft fan. He was in one of my guys category, and Luke Musgrave I just didn't think had enough talent and more. It was not enough playing time. He was in a smaller school. He couldn't quite stay healthy. At the beginning of the year, I really started to think Musgrave was kind of inching towards my favorite, but once it was all said and done and I saw what types of players both of them were, and I saw how Tucker really came on at the end of the year, if you had to put a squirt gun to my head and make me decide who I'm picking, I would say Tucker Kraft would be the guy that I would put all my eggs in his basket, just because I feel like he's more rounded. Musgrave still kind of looks, there's a few throws and catches and routes where I saw him and I was like, he still kind of has that baby giraffe, like wobbliness to him where he just doesn't seem to have a center of gravity figured out yet. Whereas Tucker, he just seems like a really well-rounded tight end, an old school tight end where he can block, he can run with run blocking. He's good at pass protection. I think he's really underrated with how well he caught the ball and how he would get some yak after. And you saw he's not afraid. He'll jump over people. He'll do spin moves. He'll lower his shoulder. I love it.
Yeah.
I think those are great points, Jacob. I don't know what else to say. I mean, he is the man, right? If we want a guy that just screams Packers, it's probably Tucker Kraft. Get him out there in the winter ice fishing. It's over. So
Let's go.
I think it's all game time.
Again, when you pull up the tight end statistics from last year, minimum targets 40. Okay. And the reason we did that, Tucker Kraft had 41 targets. So you're getting guys that are in that same ballpark as far as the opportunities that they did get. Receiver rating when targeted. So passer rating when targeted, essentially, Tucker Kraft was fourth in the league amongst tight ends with a 117.4. Just absolutely phenomenal. Drop percentage, you see it right here. SIS has it listed at 0.0%. Only him and Mike Gesicki from the Patriots is listed, according to SIS, Sports Information Solutions, as 0 drops. Now, on target catch percentage is set at 93.3%, so I don't know if they didn't include a pass that wasn't caught as a drop, but it was still considered on target. Maybe defenders got a hand on it, I would imagine. But nonetheless, pretty impressive stuff there too. When you go yards per target, so when the Packers targeted him, he averaged 8.7 yards per target. That was fifth best in the league, behind the likes of Mark Andrews of the Ravens, Noah Fant from the Seahawks, Isaiah Likely from the Ravens, and George Kittle from the 49ers. Just Tucker Kraft, man, in my opinion, he outperformed Luke Musgrave last year. Now, I'm not trying to dog Musgrave and say that he's not going to be good too, but Tucker Kraft made the most out of his opportunities last year. That's for sure.
Well, if you look at that chart right there, even as it is right there, Tucker's fifth. Look who's number 11th, Mr. Luke Musgrave, right above TJ Hawkinson and Michael Mayer. I mean, that's good company.
Yeah, that's a good point. But look what Musgrave did.
Musgrave stayed on his feet.
I mean, you can't compete with that, Jacob.
Yeah. No.
Completion percentage, 75.6% when targeted. So pretty impressive stuff there. And the other thing too, like if we were to go to yards, and I'm probably going to screw this up by doing this. Hopefully it doesn't change the minimum targets. But if we were to go to yards here, okay, let's go yards. Now, obviously he wasn't very high on the list as far as yards, but with receiving yards, Tucker Kraft was 29th in the league if they had at least 41 targets. I imagine that includes the league leaders there. 355 yards. So if you go to the top here, remember 350, okay, guys? And we have 41 targets. So let's say he got 100 targets, okay? So you're going to double that number, correct? Mm-hmm. And really, attack probably another 100 yards onto it. So what are you looking at there? With Tucker Kraft, you'd be looking at what? 700, probably over 800 yards if he'd get the same amount of targets. I mean, that's absolutely wild, especially with the 0 drops that we talked about too. So I don't know, man. And then broken tackles, he had 5 broken tackles. I haven't even looked at that. I imagine it's kind of low though. 5 broken tackles. And one of the things that they got frustrated with Tucker on last year, they being the coaching staff, and they actually mentioned this, was like, you're a big boy. Stop jumping over people, right? Yeah. Stop jumping over them and run through them. So I'd say
probably aren't counting his hurdles.
Exactly right. So there. Anything else you guys want to add on Tucker Kraft? I'm excited to get him back for sure. So
U.S. Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why U.S. Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from U.S. Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
Nothing, man. I can't wait.
Smitty was asking a question. I don't know if you still are available for that chart. He said, who was the leader in first down percentage for tight ends?
Great question.
First down percentage per tight ends. That would be rates, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, right there.
Boom. All right. So first down percentage, Tucker Kraft was 11th at 58.1%. Donald Parham Jr. from the Chargers was number 1 at 81.5. Michael Mayer was 70.4 from the Raiders. Hunter Henry, 69 from the Patriots. Kyle Pitts, 66. George Kittle, 64. So, yeah, Tucker Kraft still 11th there.
Where's Musgrave?
Musgrave. Where is – oh, Lord, that's not good, is it? 41.2%. So, he was 33rd best. You see what I'm saying? Like, no matter what number, what statistic, what metric you look at, kind of feels like Musgrave should be the number 1 tight end, meaning he goes out there with 11 personnel on the field, and then Musgrave kind of play, second fiddle there. The problem is you've got a Y and you've got a U, right, as far as the tight end position. The Y is more of the attached on the line, and they can be flexed out as well, while the U kind of plays that wing, that off, that sift, that slice, a little bit of yo-yo, all that stuff that Matt LaFleur likes to do. I don't think that fits Musgrave as much as it does Tucker Kraft. So, but when you're in 11 personnel, it don't matter. Throw Tucker out there. That's just kind of how I feel. And you guys know I was a big Musgrave fan coming out of college. He was the guy that, like, when we're doing our live draft show, I pulled up the board now. This feels like Musgrave here. This makes all the sense in the world. Completely agreed with the pick. Still think he's going to be a great player. I really do.
But even if Matt's able to get a defense to commit that they're in 11 personnel, but that 11 personnel consists of Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, then we're in business. If Musgrave is looked at as a wide receiver threat, but has that big body and then walks in, I mean, if Tucker Kraft is that U back, or that would be ideal. But he wants to be still attached, so It's kind of going to be how Matt's able to sneak them on the field and off the field together.
Definitely. All right. Check this out. 3013 tweeted this out. Packers wide receiver season stats predicted by Grok. All right. So artificial intelligence predicted this. They were asked, AI predicts Packers wide receiver stats. So Christian Watson, I'm going to try to do these in order. They didn't do them in order of production. I'm going to try to do it in order of production. They predicted Jaden Reed 72 catches, 1,046 receiving yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns. Second on the team would have been Christian Watson, 65 receptions, 959 receiving yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. Third would be Dontavian Wicks, 55 receptions, 802 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. Number 4 would be Romeo Doubs at 48 receptions, 720 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns. Obviously, he's just an absolute beast in the red zone. And then, of course, 5th would be Bo Melton at 37 receptions, 494 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. Thought this was real interesting that Dobbs wasn't at least 2nd. Here he is 4th in these AI predictions. And I understand how they got to that point, in my opinion, outside of Christian Watson, simply because of the injury history. But I personally think that Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks have the greatest shot to be, in the long run, the best receivers of this group. But damn, if Romeo Doubs isn't having a heck of a camp, boys. But Jacob, let's start with Emilio this time. Emilio, what do you think about these numbers right here, man?
I think you're spot on with Romeo there. I think that he's going to have honestly a bigger year than that, just because Jordan Love trusts him, right? He's going to be his go-to. Yeah, he's going to have a bunch of receiving touchdowns, but I don't know, looking at him, second and need it, third and need it sort of thing. I think he trusts his hands, but that's pretty accurate. I don't mind the estimate there at all. And Tay Wicks, we're all rooting for him to take off. This is why Jacob's been diving in all that fantasy stuff. I mean, you got a bunch of guys here that probably could potentially break 1,000, and one's already, estimated over 1,000. So it's we're lucky, man, because you tie that in with just the tight end group we were talking about. We have two threats in there, a sift block machine in Tyler Davis, and absolute, threats on the outside. So Matt better be cooking something up.
Yeah, John in the chat says, hot take, I think Dobbs nearly doubles that catch total. I've seen you kind of mark that one, Jacob. What do you think about this, right? You think they're sleeping on Dobbs a little bit?
Yeah, I do. But here's the thing is there's only so many, catches to go around, so many yards to go around. And Smitty said it good here, and it does make you think. He says just what's on the screen right here is almost 4,000 receiving yards. That doesn't count our two tight ends. Well, our tight end group or the running backs coming out of the backfield. So, don't get me wrong. I'd love it if Jordan passes for 5,500 yards and we got 3 over 1,000. But, I would argue I could really easily see Jaden Reed and like Dobbs going over 1,000 and then having maybe, Watson and Wicks with like both around 700-800, but maybe with more touchdowns than that. And then I could see maybe one of the two tight ends having both of the tight ends maybe have more like 400 to 600 yards. A couple of running backs maybe got 300 or 400 yards receiving. It is crazy to just think about what the combinations could be here. The biggest thing too, like we've talked about, never, knock on wood, don't want it, but there's going to be some injuries. So that it just depends on what the injuries are, what time of the year it happens, and what the rotation looks like at that time. But it is a crazy thing that they're like, Malik Heath, we don't even need to throw him up there. He could account for 200 yards and 15 catches or possibly double that. You know what I mean? It just depends on what's going on.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Definitely. Adding up all those catches, that's 277 completed passes just to the wide receivers for Jordan Love. I mean, out of probably 500 or so plays, if you're at 60 a play per game. I mean, that's tough, man. We are going to have to figure out these numbers. I really don't know. I really don't.
It's a fascinating conversation for sure. Randy in the chat said we will have three over 1,000 yards. All good says Melton's too high there. Too high with the stats, not too high on the devil's lettuce. All right, just calm down out there, folks. Put your stones back in your ropes. All right. So yeah, I could see that being a little bit too rich there for both. I could see that. Tony Holman says no way Dobbs has that low of receptions. That's the number that popped to me too, Tony. Was like I could see the yards being around there, but not the receptions that low. That makes sense. Omer says Dobbs, my fave, the TD monster, the one of all of them I want on a 50-50 ball. I agree with that on the 50-50 ball for sure. Omer says Watson's going over 1,000 easy. He healthy all season. I rock in the chat says, yo, like the stream. Go, Pat, go. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for swinging through. M. Smitty says, add in the tight ends and running backs, and they're looking at a 5,000 passing yards from Love.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, sign me up. Ron Sample says, were they hiding Wicks at family night? Very few snaps. It's interesting, isn't it, Ron? Did kind of feel like something was up.
He had only 6 snaps with Love and him both on the field at the same time, whereas I believe it was either Reed or Watson or something. It was like 18, 16, 14, and then for whatever reason, Wicks at like 6. So I don't know if that was intentional or if they're just trying to save him, or I don't know.
Yeah. Doug in the chat says one of the pods added up the stats and concluded it puts J Love top 3 in MVP talk. That would not surprise me one bit if he's right there in the MVP running, if he picks up where he left off last year. Now, we got the unofficial depth chart released today. Going to be a little bit hard to read here. I can't zoom in. I apologize for that. But just want to kind of take a glance. Can you guys read it enough that we can have a quick conversation on this? Is that all right?
Yeah.
All right. So here's what it's showing. It's showing I don't want to bore you with the normal, everything that we kind of already knew, but we'll rattle through it real quick. Jordan Love, number 1, Sean Clifford, 2, Michael Pratt, 3. And again, unofficial depth chart. Everybody always overreacts to these, but we're going to mention them. They've got Josh Jacobs as running back 1, A.J. Dillon running back 2, and then Marshawn Lloyd at 3, then Emmanuel Wilson, Merriweather, and Jarvion Howard. I would agree with that, the way it sits right now. I think by the end of the year, though, Marshawn Lloyd's going to be we're going to be trying to get him more snaps. I really believe that. So at wide receiver, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed. Behind them, you've got Bo Melton, Malik Heath, and Dontavian Wicks. So it's pretty much what we've talked about. That's the 6 that we would pick, I believe. But you got Samori Toure, Julian Hicks, Grant DeBose, our boy Malik Heath. Or, I'm sorry, not Malik Heath, but who was the other wide receiver I was thinking of?
Demetrius Stanley.
Yeah, Demetrius Stanley. So to me, the only people that's going to compete for one of those 6 spots is Samori Toure and Grant DeBose. Do you guys agree with that, or do you think?
Yeah.
No, I think you're spot on with that, definitely.
All right, so tight end, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, Ben Sims, then Tyler Davis is kind of how they got that listed there. I think I would agree with that, although I don't know if the Packers agree with it, because Tyler Davis, man, they really love that dude on specials. If they only carry 3 tight ends this year, somehow, some way, I think it'd be Tyler Davis over Ben Sims. I'm not saying they should do that. It just kind of feels like that's the direction they would go. Offensive line, left tackle, Rasheed Walker, left guard, Elton Jenkins, center, Josh Myers, right guard, Jordan Morgan, right tackle, Zach Tom. Now back up at each position, left tackle, Andre Dillard, Royce Newman at left guard, backup center, Jacob Muck, right guard, Sean Ryan, right tackle, Kadeem Telford. Boys, we don't have a whole lot of depth, do we?
That's what I'm saying, dude.
It sucks. So go back to Omer's original comment, right? I kind of roll my eyes and think, all right, you're overreacting, Omer. And then I look at the depth chart and I go, yeah, we could probably use another body in here, boys. So after that, they've got Caleb Jones at left tackle, Lasita Smith, Donovan Jennings, Luke Tenuta, and Travis Glover. That was from left to right. Actually, Luke Tenuta and Travis Glover as the back or the 3rd and 4th string right tackles there. And we already talked about tight end. So on the offensive side of the ball, anything you guys want to add there? Anything you disagree with? That offensive line, that feels like that's the direction they're going to go as far as the starters, right?
The starters, yeah, but I mean, I think Emilio would probably agree with me. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but look at that second string. You can't tell me you don't swap out Dillard and Newman for Glover and Tenuta, or Glover and Jennings, or anybody. I don't even know you, Lasitas, but I'm willing to give you a shot over Royce and Dillard. I feel like we have known commodities in Dillard and Newman, and they are not good. We know what we have in them. They're just kind of big, I don't know, dumpster fires. I'd rather bring in the new guys. If they're going to have guys that are not consistent and maybe are a little bit iffy, let's make it because they're first-year starters and not because they're 3rd or 4th-year veterans that are so bad that we're just praying that they turn out.
Yeah, Jacob's talking over here. If we put in our second stringers, our left side of our line is just going to get washed out every single play. So
oh my Lord.
We need to get some beef over there, and we need to get some. And why not get the young kids out there and let them play? We've done it before with this team. We did it all last year. I mean, Andre Dillard had a chance with everybody else. If he's not done it, in preseason, if these games don't go well for him, I don't. They probably don't end up keeping him, right, and just move on if it's just a loss at that point.
Yeah. All right, moving on the defensive side of the ball, defensive line. All right, Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary, your starting defensive ends. Starting defensive tackles, Kenny Clark and TJ Slayton. Me no like that, Jan. All right. Backup defensive ends, Lucas Van Ness and Kingsley Enagbare. I can see that. Backup defensive tackles, Devontae White and Carl Brooks. Are you guys okay with TJ Slayton getting the bulk of the snaps over Devontae White and Carl Brooks? And again, unofficial, I get it, but what do you guys think about that? Am I off base there going, I'd rather see Carl Brooks or Devontae White starting a D tackle?
I think that I know this is really splitting the difference here, but on first downs, I'd be okay with Slayton there, baby. On second and third downs, I'd rather have some sort of combination of White and Brooks, especially if it's like a 3rd and long or a 2nd and long versus you know what I'm trying to say? Just situationally, I know what they're trying to do with these guys. It's just, I think, again, there's only so many snaps that we can do, and I'd hate to spread it so thin that guys don't get a chance to really develop their game.
Yeah.
And honestly, the way I feel about it is TJ Slayton has been kind of tearing it up in camp. So
Right.
if he keeps that going, I would honestly rather have a little bit more beef inside and be fine with it. Let's rotate him, and then throughout the season, if it's not the case, we have ready to go D tackles and waiting in Devontae Wyatt and Carl Brooks. But like we said, I've been trying to preach for Wyatt the past 2 years about, he's going to be a breakout year. He's going to get better, all this. And it seems like he's not popping on the field as much as we want, or, that run defense isn't there. If TJ's got that run defense, we're going to need him out there, more often than not.
Thick.
Thank
He
you.
is. Maybe it's something that he's going to be that defensive tackle next to Kenny in the base 4-3 when they go sub package.
Yeah.
They'll take TJ Slayton out, right? Because
Did you see that, Clayton, in the rest of the family night when they were going wide set on the front there?
No, I didn't. So, what do you mean wide set with the D tackles?
Yeah. Oh, like over the three gap, and then the ends out even further. Like how the Jets did it.
Gotcha. So they had double wide 9 and then a double 3 to 4 tech.
Yep.
Oh, I like it, dude. I like it. That
That got
center
me excited. Saw that the rest of the family night. I was like,
center's looking like all your local city workers. When you go by and there's one dude with a shovel digging and 7 of them standing around not doing anything, you come out in that 3 to 4 tech on both sides with the defensive tackles. That center, he don't know whether to crap or go blind, so he closes one eye and farts. He blocks air the whole night.
And maybe TJ likes, being able to split a gap better, instead of having to always work a double team, he gets to, use that mass to move around one dude and make a play. I like that idea.
I'll tell you what makes me happy, though, is behind Devontae Wyatt and Carl Brooks, if they are indeed considered second team there,
Right.
Kobe Wooden. That's some pretty good depth there, defensive tackle boys. So,
yep. And look who's tagging right there is Jonathan Ford. That's a battle. That's the next battle right there. If we're talking D-line and interior, it's got to be Kobe Wooden and Jonathan Ford fighting for the spot.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Jacob. Got a crucial question here. Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, your starting defensive ends. Behind them, Lucas Van Ness, Kingsley, and Igbar. If you had to choose between Brenton Cox Jr. or Keyshawn Banks, who would you take?
Are you kidding me? Cox. Cox Jr. For sure.
The way you said that, my man. But all right, moving on to linebackers, stack backers. Okay, in a 4-3 set, they're showing Quay Walker as your Mike, Eric Wilson as your Sam, Isaiah McDuffie as your Will. Behind them, you've got Christian Welch as the backup Mike, Tyron Hopper as the Will, Edrin Cooper as the Sam. Now, those might be crossed up a touch, but I'm pretty sure I'm reading that correctly. And those will be somewhat interchangeable depending on the team you're playing from a week-to-week basis. But as far as the linebackers that you may or may not carry on this roster, those top 6 to me seem pretty well set. And if anything, you only carry 5 and leave Christian Welch on the practice squad and kind of manipulate that roster a touch. Because I don't think Christian Young or Raylan Goforth has an opportunity to really make the 53. But I do like Christian Young as depth for sure. So how does that look to you guys there at linebacker?
I know. I was saying I think you're spot on with Christian Young probably making that 69-man roster, right? And Kenneth is definitely making the roster too, bringing us to 70. So I like that kind of depth that we have. I think we'll have to dial up a 70-man roster once it gets a little closer. But it's kind of weird. We got both the rookies back there, but you're obviously not going to put Edrin out to start, right?
Yeah. Dropping back to the chat real quick, take a step back when they were talking defensive line. Ron Sample says, I'm okay with Slayton. He's been a beast. All right. Omer says, Wyatt on third downs. I agree. Second and long, too. There you go. So pass rushing situations. Had an incredible pressure percentage last year as a defensive tackle.
Right.
Coach Lynn says, I'm good with it. And then Ron Sample says, remember, Kenny may play less snaps. That's a good point, too. Good point. Might start to fade it back just a touch and protect him for down the stretch there. You don't want to get caught being too cute there either, right? So cornerback position, we have Jair Alexander and Eric Stokes as your starting corners, okay? And do they have it broken down into slot? They do not, do they? Okay, so it's just normal depth chart here. So Jair Alexander and Eric Stokes as your starting corners. Mm-hmm. Next in line is Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine. Then you've got Corey Ballantyne and Robert Rochelle, if I'm reading that correctly. Then probably Kalen King, seeing that he was a draft pick there. So if you were to carry, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you carry 6, Kalen King and Corey Ballantyne are both safe, according to this depth chart as it sits right now. Do you guys
And Rochelle made a couple good sticks at Family Night too, though. He made a couple pops in that live tackling.
And fairly reasonable special teams player from last year, if I remember correctly. It seemed like that was something Paul Brettel talked about. Whether you think he played well or not, they definitely seen him as a special teams type player. If you guys would take a quick second, hit that like button for us. We've got a ton of people in here. If you hit that, it boosts the algorithm just a touch. We'll see if we can get some more people in here watching. We appreciate y'all being part of the show this evening. Jacob, what do you think about that cornerback position, what we were just talking about, man? It kind of feels like both Corey Ballantyne and Kalen King could potentially make the roster, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, we look at just how many spots we got. It's going to be a chess match and a musical chairs type situation when it actually comes to the end of training camp and we have to either make tough decisions or figure out a way to, this guy, he caught the COVID this week, or this guy just pulled a hammy. I got to put him on this or that list. And once that list expires, we'll figure out, who else is getting sick or needs a little time off. But that being said, man, on the defense, I haven't really taken a step back and evaluated it recently, but I don't think that there's one positional group where I think that we need to get any more outside talent, meaning every single thing that we have as far as how we want to shape up the depth chart is already on this team. If anything, it's going to be, like we just said, it's going to be tough to cut down. Is there any position group on the defense that you guys would want to sign a free agent or try to get some guy that just got cut off another squad? Is there anywhere that you see a weakness where you don't have confidence in the depth chart?
It's a great question, man, because when we talk about safety, Xavier McKinney, Javon Bullard, Anthony Johnson Jr., Evan Williams, and then, of course, Katana Ladapo, when he's healthy, he'll be on the roster, I'm sure. I really don't see any place on defense. Do you, Emilio, where you go, hey, we need this position? On offense, you can see some depth at offensive line, but defense, I just don't see it.
Not to kind of go out and purchase. No, I don't quite see it. It would be something of a churn at the bottom of the roster, see if you can find them and put them on the practice squad. But I think we're kind of set with it, because the problem is we've seen so much production. I would say linebacker, but the problem is we've seen so much production out of Eric Wilson and McDuffie this past year. And bringing in those two rookies, there's not a lot of room for space there following up behind them.
Yeah, because, I was going to ask that same question for offense, and the only spot where I would see is just like what Carl said here, what Omer said, it's the interior offensive line and probably the offensive line depth. That would be the only spot on offense. We're stacked at wide receiver, stacked at tight end. The running back room is even thicker than I thought, because in addition to the guys that we all know about, I was really impressed with this Merriweather dude. I don't know if you guys saw him. He run hard. He looked like he was like one of those. He reminded me of the first time I saw Emmanuel Wilson. I was like, who is this? Where did he come from? Right. Why is he so angry?
The problem is how many are they actually going to be cutting, though? Like, that are, if you're cutting an offensive lineman from your team because he didn't make it, are we sure we're going to find that diamond in the rough? That's the only issue of trying to pull in the depth there.
Definitely. All right, so special teams, Anders Carlson and Greg Joseph in that order. They've got Anders Carlson a little bit ahead of Greg Joseph on the depth chart right now. Daniel Whelan, the only punter in camp to the best of my knowledge. I think Daniel Whelan's a stud. That's just me. I think he's a great holder. I think he's a great punter. He's one of the unsung heroes on this team. There were so many times last year that he pinned them inside the 20. Kick return, they've got kick return and punt return, Keyshawn Nixon, number 1, Jaden Reed, number 2. Then long snapper, they got Matt Orzik leading the way, and then Peter Bowden as second on the depth chart. Keep in mind, many years in the past, I know at least 2 or 3 years in the past, we have cut both long snappers to manipulate that initial 53, and then within 24 to 48 hours, sign one back. So that might be another way that they keep one of these guys from a different position. So just keep that in mind there. One other thing I wanted to hit on real quick before we wrap up. Wanted to hit on just random 53-man roster projections. And this is one of the loyal listeners here, Aaron Rodgers at AMRogers98 on Twitter, sent this over to me. He said, here's my 2024 Green Bay Packers 53-man roster prediction article. I think he wrote it back June 16th. So this is going to be really interesting. Yeah, I think that was him right there. Yeah, he's in the chat right now. So let's take a look real quick at his projected 53. And again, he wrote this. You correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron Rodgers, but you wrote on June 16th, if the date's correct there. So I imagine it hadn't been updated or anything. So Let's take a look at it real quick and see what you guys think. Tomorrow we'll hit on Bill Huber's 53-man projection. I think it's just cool to get multiple opinions and attack this from different angles. So let's go offense first.
To be fair, real quick to preface this, if there's any discrepancies or errors, he did write this in the middle of a dark cave. So
yes, he did.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Do not be the spelling bee police in here, all right? The grammar police, because this was written during a darkness retreat, all right? You're probably this will prove to be 100% accurate because of that reason right there. So, initial 53-man roster prediction. Here we go. Quarterbacks, 3 right off the bat. This is going to be interesting. Jordan Love, Sean Clifford, Michael Pratt. I can see it, man. You guys agree or disagree there? Carrying 3 or just carrying 2?
What do you think, Emilio?
Man, it's tough. I honestly, I still think we're going to carry just Jordan Love and Sean Clifford. I don't think we might try to stow Pratt away. I really do.
Tell you what I could see happening, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because we got to go rapid fire here. I could see them keeping 3 and not keeping a long snapper, and then let these teams fill their roster in, and then try to stash Sean Clifford on the practice squad. I could see it something like that. I think Michael Pratt will get snatched up. That's just me personally.
That's what I was thinking too.
They may be able to go in that direction to manipulate that roster just a touch. So,
but if they have to sign them, right, though? They have to sign them to their 53 or after the 53-man cut, they can sign them to the practice squad.
Yeah, after the 53-man cut, they can sign them to the practice squad. They just got to clear waivers. So
gotcha.
The reason that teams do that is because, you've got to assume they're going to carry them on the roster. So everybody continues building their roster out, right?
Right.
So they find, our roster's set. All right, we're good to go. Oh, crap. They just placed him on waivers trying to get him to the practice squad. Do we sign him now? Well, we've already got these guys in camp. We're working with them. You know what I mean? It's right. I'm not saying it's the deciding factor, but it definitely plays a role in that decision-making process for a front office, whether or not they just want to, all right, scrap him. Let's move on to this dude, right? So just something to keep in mind there. Running backs, he's got them keeping 3. Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, Marshawn Lloyd, which means Emmanuel Wilson would go to the practice squad. I could totally see that happening. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, I do. There's so many. I don't know where we'd cut other positional groups to get to the point where I would love to have 3 quarterbacks. I'd love to have 4 running backs. I just don't see a way that we're going to make that happen unless we make crazy sacrifices at like the offensive line or the defensive line.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's going to have to be the 3.
All right. Wide receivers keeping 6. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton, Malik Heath. It's exactly how I see it. If nobody gets banged up before the end of training camp, that's exactly how I see that falling. What about you guys?
Yep. Yeah, that's it too.
That's the crew we're going with.
All right, tight ends, 4. Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, Ben Sims, Tyler Davis. So he's got them keeping 4 tight ends. Automatically, you're seeing 4 tight ends, 3 quarterbacks. Last year, if I remember correctly, only 2 quarterbacks, only 3 tight ends. So you got to make up 2 spots right off the bat. I'm eager to see how his finishes out here. So how do you guys feel about that, about keeping all 4 of those guys?
Yeah. I think the biggest surprise, now that I'm watching this and I've, kind of realized some stuff, I think the 2 biggest surprises we could see would be keeping 3 tight ends and one of them being Tyler Davis, letting Ben Sims go. And I think the other could be keeping 3 running backs. They let Dillon go and keep Wilson. That's what Coach kind of proposed right here. That to me, for some reason, just popped in my head. There's always, we always think we know what's going to happen. And then there's at least 3 or 4 position groups where we're like, holy crap. Okay.
Every year, man.
Yeah. The only thing that threw me off was looking at the Packers unofficial one that we just went through. And Ben Sims is the first one in line. Even Tyler Davis being locked in as a special teams ace, he's 4th there. So I feel like that kind of locks Ben in. If I know it's early look at that depth chart, but I think Ben definitely makes it. I think Tyler's still kind of on the bubble.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, offensive line. He's got them keeping 9 right off the bat. Let's just take a quick look from last year. We kept 11 last year.
Yeah, there's
there's the 2 spots, right, that he's making up. So So offensive line, he's got Rasheed Walker, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Jordan Morgan, Zach Tom, Andre Dillard, Sean Ryan, Jacob Monk, and Travis Glover. I'd be okay with that. What do you think, boys? Yeah, is that too skinny? That's the problem.
I think we could get away with this, and that could make our other headaches not so much of headaches. I would swap out Dillard for either Tenuta or Jennings, and I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. I don't think that's bad at all. I think if we have a lot of cross training, why not have a smaller group? We cross train for a reason. If not, you'd have to have backups at every position, right?
Just keep in mind, I don't know, and I could be wrong here. I don't know if Andre Dillard is practice squad eligible, and Jennings is. So just keep that in mind. You know what I mean? You might be able to keep them both, and that's
Tenuta as well.
I don't know if Tenuta is or not. He was last year though. No,
right.
He was on IR last year, wasn't he? Am I thinking right?
I think you are right.
Yeah. All right, so keeping 9 instead of 11, that makes up the 2 spots. So we're pretty much back even there. So essentially what AM Rogers 98 on Twitter is saying is you'd rather keep an extra quarterback, an extra tight end than we did last year, and 2 less offensive linemen. I don't know how the chat would feel about it because they're sitting here saying, hey, look, we need more depth. We need more depth. But that means you don't like the depth that's on the roster. They're probably okay with just carrying the 9. We're better off without them, right? So
yeah, Blake B makes a good point here. That list doesn't have Kadeem Telfort in it, so
yeah,
I would probably have to swap out Dillard for Telfort.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree with that. I do, and I know Dillard, high draft pick, like he was 19th overall the year he came out. Got all kinds of traits that obviously Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff love. But it just seems like they have a little more faith in Kadeem Telfort than they do Andre Dillard through camp. Mm-hmm. So, going to be interesting. All right, defensive side of the ball. Defensive line, he's got them keeping 10. Last year, we only kept 6. Now, keep in mind, that does change, okay, because outside linebackers will switch to edge. So, really, we kept 12 last year, according to – you see what I'm saying? Defensive line plus outside linebackers last year in a 34 would equal 12 defensive linemen. So, he's going with 10, 2 less. I'm sorry, not 10. Just a second. 10. He's going with 2 less. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, Kobe Wooden, Carl Brooks, Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, Kingsley Enagbare, Lucas Van Ness, and drum roll, please, Brenton Cox Jr. Jacob said, as long as you included Brenton Cox, that's all that matters to me. So interesting there. 2 less from last year as far as those that defensive front. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. I saw a comment. Where did I see it? It broke my heart. I thought it was maybe from Omar right here. He said that I keep Davis over Cox Jr. without hesitation. Somebody cue the Greta. How dare you?
I got
that. That to me is a crime against humanity. How dare you? Thank you, Greta. I don't know how she got in there.
True international average of pressure.
I don't know how he got here either. It is an interesting situation. Jeez, dropping all of them. The ghost of Tim lives on.
Get your thoughts together, Jacob. Be professional. What the hell's going on right now?
I'm trying. This is a good point too. A lot of people in the chat have said that Glover could be a stash. That could be a really good one for stashing. Same with Jennings, I'm sure. Just to free up, because I honestly, I really do want Brenton Cox Jr. on this team. If I had to choose, if it's between him or, like Pratt, I think I'd definitely take Pratt. And you guys know I'm an OG Cox lover, but when it comes down to what's best for the team, I mean, I really do think it'd be maybe keeping that 3rd quarterback, or that maybe possibly 4th running back, or the 4th tight end, or we are really stacked at the D end. Plus, with the fact that we shouldn't say we forget, but we have guys that are interchangeable, like Carl Brooks and Kobe Wooden, who have a lot of experience playing D ends. So,
yeah, there you go. All right, Emilio.
I think that's a perfect 10 there for the D line. But they're going to be rotating like crazy, so we're just gonna have a bunch of athletes out there. in and out. Everybody gets a rep, and everybody gives it 100%. So I'm fine with that, man. And it's everybody we've talked about. I feel like there's no, surprise that we're going to kind of dive into down there. But
yeah, I think you got some flexibility there too, where Wyatt, Wooden, those guys can play. Carl Brooks, they can play defensive end if you get a little bit of trouble there too, right? So a lot of flexibility. Linebacker, he's only carrying 4. Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, Tyron Hopper. Now, last year, this is where it gets interesting because you got to look at the inside linebackers from last year. We carried 5 last year, so he's going 1 less from last year. Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Wilson, Tariq Carpenter. I think we'd all agree we could have removed Tariq Carpenter, right, and be just fine there. So I think that the 4-3 front here, I don't think that's a bad idea to just carry 4, although I think they're going to carry more than that.
Yeah, well, you could also take Hollins and Carpenter off those lists, and that frees up 2 players right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there you go. What do you think, Emilio? It seems a little thin looking at it.
Yeah, I think we need Eric Wilson on there somewhere.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna have to shove him onto the list somehow. But he's gonna make it.
Yeah, that's probably.
We could get away with 5, I think.
Yeah, A.M. Rogers 9-8. That's the first thing on this list that I would say I definitely disagree with. Is I'd love to see Eric Wilson on the roster. I just think he's one of those guys. I think he's got a chance to be a starting linebacker, man. I really do. I mean, he's
right.
They've one thing that coaches that it goes, kind of underappreciated or not talked about enough from knuckleheads like us is trust. And they seem to trust Eric Wilson a lot, and rightfully so. So that's the one thing I would disagree with here. So cornerback, Jair Alexander, he's carrying 6. Let's see here. Last year we carried 4. That's wild, man. So they're not scared to go a little bit scampier there as far as the cornerback position. He's got them keeping 6. Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, Kalen King, and Corey Ballantyne. I agree with all that. How about you fellas?
Yeah. I think you might have to try to stash either King or Ballantyne at the beginning of the year to make this work. Because if you look at the safety group too, you have to keep 5 there. You can't get away with stashing another guy. So I think the cornerback room and the D end room is probably where we're going to find the maneuvers happening where, like we just talked about, if, this guy's got a cold, this guy pulled an ankle, this blah, 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 whatever you got to do to make it work. Oh, we don't have a long snapper for the first week or whatever the case is until all that.
All right. Emilio, anything else with corner there? You good?
No, I think that's about it. Like he said, either KK or Corey, but
got it. All right. We got a bunch of people just jumped in to the show here. If you would hit that like button for us, help boost the old algae, help other Packer fans find this channel, find this content. We appreciate y'all hanging out. Safety position. He's got them keeping 5. Xavier McKinney, Javon Buller, Katana Ladapo, Evan Williams, and Anthony Johnson Jr. Hard to argue with that number. We go back to last year. They carried 5 last year. And again, this year, he sees them carrying those 5 right there. I think if you do carry 5, that's definitely the 5, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right, special teams. Got 3 special teamers, Anders Carlson, Daniel Whelan, and Peter Bowden. So he has them actually carrying Peter Bowden on the initial 53. Like I said, I think that could be that spot where they might try to manipulate a little bit. If they've got a close enough grade of both Peter Bowden and Matt Orzik together, I think they would risk someone else picking one of those 2 players up. And it might be something where they want to put Peter Bowden on the practice squad and have Matt Orzik on the roster. That could be the case there as well. How do you guys feel about that? Because, it is a little bit of a gamble if you don't carry that long snapper, right?
Yeah.
They could pick one up, right? If you ditch them both, but you have faith in both. If one of them gets snagged, the other doesn't. I feel like like you said, they did it last year. But if that's a spot we can make up, or Jordan Morgan, like Jacob wants, can long snap, that would be ideal too.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't tell me that one of those guys on the offensive line, or the 9 or 10 dudes, none of them can snap a ball 5 feet 5 yards.
This eats Jacob up every day, man.
Well, they
does.
can on Madden, Jacob. They can on Madden. You know that the center obviously is the automatic long snapper on Madden. But
Right. I don't even know why they got the long snappers on the roster. They're like 46 overall, right?
they're always a tight end too.
Yeah, they're listed as a tight end. Like I'm not trying to throw Peter Bowden the seam route. You know what I'm saying? Get him out of here. What are we doing?
I'm just
Jacob, this is something Jacob stresses over though. He's like, I don't understand why someone can't be an option quarterback, a pocket passer, kick field goals, and punt the ball too. This makes no sense.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if a guy can snap a ball to the quarterback and he can shotgun snap it 3 yards and he can shotgun snap it sometimes a 5 yard, why can't he just slightly adjust it to snap it to a little punter baby boy who's just going to grab the ball? Like, what are you talking about?
Daniel Whelan is 6'5". He is not a punter baby boy. I would not stand.
Even better, he's got a wider freaking strike zone then. Let's go.
Jacob's over here. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Okay.
Dang
Get
right.
out there.
Patches your Houlihan.
Love it. So everybody, do me a favor. Go to Twitter. Look up at AM Rogers 98. Give him a follow. And thank you so much for taking the time to send it over, man. This was a lot of fun. Really,
and you
really
can't
good.
even touch the snapper. You can't even touch him after he snapped the ball.
He's still going on.
You can put the water boy out there, and
But you got to run down and you got to cover a punt, Jacob. That's the biggest thing.
So easy.
Jacob's like, put Eric Wilson out there. Let's go.
Exactly.
Tyler Davis, you can make this squad if you can long snap. You heard it here from Jacob.
See, everything that Jacob's saying is how I feel about kickers. I'm like, I watch college football every single weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And there are college kickers hitting clutch kicks from 58 yards out consistently. And then we look at the 32 teams in the pros, and they couldn't hit a bull in the ass with a mop. I'm going, how is this possible that there's not 32 human beings on the face of the earth that can't kick better than this? It happens every year. Every year.
Just real quick, how many times in your life have you had a chance to hit a bull in the ass with a mop? And
Jacob.
Why was there a mop? And
Jacob.
Was it easy? Because
we've been through this, Jacob. We've been through this.
I get the fart in the fan factory. That makes sense.
Well, do you think he's ever gone into a fan factory to test it?
Thank you, Emilio.
He's like Dyson. I need Dyson on the horn.
He's coming home from Chipotle and he's like, you know what?
I wish I could go back to 1993 and have Jacob on the creek bank with me and Dad and a couple other bikers, and him hear one of these one-liners, and Jacob go, "That doesn't even make sense. You're getting chucked in the water, bro."
Well, hold on a minute, sir. That doesn't make sense.
Hold up. How many times in your life have you hit – hashtag that for me on Twitter, everybody. Bull in the ass with a mop, okay? Do that for me. So
we already got it trending in the chat. So
there you go. Mission accomplished. Now AM Rogers 98's like, I can't believe my name's attached to this episode. Well, welcome to the club, buddy. I can't believe mine is too. So there you go. Anything else, fellas? Anything at all?
Show sucks.
M. Smith, to your question earlier, Clayton on Dillard for practice squad. He is not, as he has played enough games each of the past 4 seasons to make him having an accrued NFL season. So he's saying he is not available, right? Is that correct? Is that how y'all reading it? Okay. Thank you, Smitty. Appreciate you, man. Thanks, Jamie. Absolutely awesome. All right, Jacob, you got anything else other than making fun of my childhood sayings here, man?
No, no.
Some things are left are better left
unsaid,
ununderstood. How about that? Emilio, you got anything, dude?
No, dude. I can't believe we got an actual preseason game this weekend. I mean,
I can't believe we got a show. This was just
dude. Oh well, that too. I'm surprised you kept it together the past couple of days. Good thing the chat's here, man, or else.
It is so hot in here, bro.
It was hot during the draft. It was hot during the draft, and we were running 2 AC.
It's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. That's it. The show sucks. Y'all have a good evening. We're out. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully. Hopefully not really, but we'll probably be in here with nothing to do. So we'll talk to you.
Wash your hands, wash your butt, man. That's it. That's all.
Starting advice there. Appreciate it, Tay. So we will what's Smitty say? You are amazing people here. I got that one for you too. Where's it at, Jacob?
You're an amazing person. You know that, don't you?
Jacob definitely gets that one played on him more than any of the other hosts, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's always saying something about meat missiles and Brenton Cox and all that. That he gets that played quite often. So we'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central. What is it, Tuesday tomorrow night? So no practice tomorrow, but we'll come up with some more. Like I said, I want to hit Bill Huber's 53-man projection as well. I think that's going to be cool. So we'll touch on that and any other topics. Jacob, you sent me an article earlier. I didn't get a chance to check it out. What was it? What was the gist of it? Was it pretty good or?
I believe, it was.
You didn't read it, did you?
No, it was another 53-man projection. It was from one of our beat reporters that we respect, if I'm not mistaken. And it was an interesting kind of a few things where I wouldn't have guessed. So just another one we can take a look at.
So, and now's the time to do that because you're entering the final 2 weeks right of camp. It's kind of, well, let's see, 3 weeks, I guess you could say, but they're starting to kind of look at this now. And it's so cool when you get like training camp information, which by the way, Hard Knocks starts Tuesday, I think, for the Chicago Bears. I'm excited to just watch that whole thing implode, but they'll have their depth chart, their boards and everything, right? Just like on their whiteboard, just like you would do a draft board. Like they're constantly adjusting and what's the 53 going to look like, who could clear waivers, all those things. So now's the time to talk about this stuff when camp practices aren't happening, at least in a public forum. So obviously tomorrow is the 6th. So we will have a camp practice tomorrow. Okay, cool. So 10:30 a.m. Central. So we'll break down camp practice from tomorrow night. We'll try to hit Bill Huber's early 53-man roster projection. And then, of course, Wednesday, you've got another camp practice at 10:30 a.m. Then it's closed to the public on the 8th and 9th. And, of course, Saturday, we've got our first preseason game, boys. It's going to be awesome. Y'all ready for a post-game show?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. May do us a pregame show, too. Who knows? But, all right, we're out, guys. Appreciate everybody. We will be back tomorrow to give you all of the news, notes, and updates on training camp practice there tomorrow. Again, if you're in the area, get out there. And if you do, send some pictures, man. Send some pictures of camp. I've been getting a lot of people sending pictures, videos to the email address, packerstotalaccess@gmail.com. You can also text us stuff too, 865-658-5824. Nothing inappropriate, please. That'll go to Jacob's number. His number is 920-1. So feel free to send that stuff over, man. Absolutely love it. Also in the upper right, if you want to join our Patreon community, feel free to scan that QR code or just go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. We've got a really cool community in there. We're going to be doing giveaways. We got to give away a Take Your Eye Off the Ball 2.0 this week, okay? We'll do that tomorrow. Will you guys remind me?
Yeah.
All right. You seem really excited about it. Cool. All right. So tomorrow night, they're going to remind me. What we're going to do is take everyone who's a Patreon member of one of the 3 tiers, okay, and we're going to put everybody on the Pinky Wheel of Fame, the Larry McCarron Pinky Wheel. We're going to spin it and give away a copy of Pat Kerwin's Take Your Eye Off the Ball 2.0, one of my favorite football books. So one last glance at greatness there. Tucker Kraft with the Bush Latte and the Lung Dart. Appreciate his service. He's back, man. Really excited about that. So we'll see y'all tomorrow. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.